but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm Kevin Wilson, broadcasting remote again today, and welcome to Radio Free New York. Thanks for joining us, everyone, here on WYSL and for our rebroadcasts on WENY and WACK. And I believe I'm joined by Bob Savage, too. Bob,
let me check. Yes, it's me. Yep,
hey,
that's right.
Bob.
Hey, Kev, how you been?
I've been doing all right, hunkering down. How you doing, Bob? It's been a while.
I'm doing well. We're doing better than Chris Cuomo up here.
I just heard that.
Yeah, we're not making light of Chris Cuomo. We sincerely wish him the best. But his brother is holding a press conference right now and just announced that he tested positive.
Yeah, no, I was just listening to that. I was like, oh, wow, that's huge news. Chris Cuomo is definitely a well-known name testing positive for coronavirus.
Well, I think it's important for people to realize, again, I'm not trying to jump ahead of you here, Kevin, but the news media is not giving people an accurate picture of what's going on here. For example, I believe there's, as of this morning, I think there's 267 cases reported in Rochester, the Monroe County area, 267 folks. But it's important to recognize the vast majority of those people are just dealing with the symptoms at home. They're talking to their doctors. And what they don't tell you is that 74 cases, which are, they're still cases, but these are people who are fully recovered. Yeah.
And what's good news, and hopefully this trend continues, is that there's been a net decline in the number of cases in Monroe County for the last few days. I don't know that we're at peak or anything, but there has been a decline, and that's positive news. And
you're talking about the net cases. If you take the case, the total number keeps going up, but it's misleading, right? Because you have to subtract out the people who are recovered in terms of what the public health impact is, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you should, watch both of those numbers. For those of you listening out there, the numbers that you should watch when your county health department in New York State's putting out is, watch the total number of cases, sure, but also watch the number of people that are recovered. And I think the big numbers, the numbers that are scary for people, for the public health officials and the hospital administrators, is the number of people who are hospitalized and number of people in the ICU. Those are the real ones to watch. Those are the ones where people talk about overwhelming the healthcare system. If those ones get too high, that's when we're actually in trouble.
Right. And if you take, I think the ICU number was, I think it was 27 or 28, but there's 4 hospitals in Rochester. So you divide 28 by 4, you're talking about an average. Obviously I'm thinking Strong is going to carry more, cases than, for example, Highland, which is a small, Strong affiliated hospital, but still, 6 cases. I can't remember how many emergency ICU beds Strong has.
I had this somewhere because that's why I wanted to look up too, because that's the big questions, right? What's our ICU capacity? What's our hospital bed capacity, right? So
right.
It's because I think there's a few hundred ICU beds that they're trying to expand, and they're trying to use like operating rooms and whatnot to turn those into ICU spaces, and then a couple thousand hospital beds overall, which they're also trying to expand capacity for.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. We tore down Genesee Hospital, 20 years ago. I was scratching my head about that. Now we're scrambling to expand other hospitals. But, look, we don't mean to make light of this. We're not trying to say on the radio here that this is not an area of concern, because the demand for ICUs and respirators and then all the other supplies like surgical masks and so forth are that can stampede ahead of supply, and that's not a good thing. So it's good to guard against that. But we're not there yet, and so far the trend, fortunately, thankfully, thank you, Lord, is is not trending towards overwhelming everything.
Yeah. So right now, at least upstate in a lot of places, I can't speak as well to some of the downstate situations, but at least upstate, like we're managing things fairly well. And and again, I think like Andrew, our Andrew Hollister asked a good question this morning. It's like, okay, if we're able to like stabilize like the number of people who are actually needing like intensive care and hospital care, like, and then we just combine that with some social distancing and wearing masks, can we start opening up the economy a little bit? Like, when do we start doing that? When does that become a more effective strategy for being able to both let people make a living and making sure that we can keep the spread of the virus down to a minimum, so we don't overwhelm the hospital systems?
Yep, good point. And and I do think it's important for us to try to, at the earliest practicable time, to try to get the economy cranking again, because that contributes to overall health. When people are in a good frame of mind, when they're optimistic, when they feel like all is not lost, when they feel like they're in control of their destinies, that is a major contributor to health.
It is. It's a major contributor to mental health and to overall well-being. If you feel confident in your ability to be able to go out and work and support yourself and support your family, like, that's huge. If you're stuck and you're trapped and you feel powerless, like that hurts. That results in an overall decline in health. And it's something we can't ignore, because there's going to be an impact on that too, in the number of people who die because of that. It's not a negligible concern. Right.
As they say, mental health is psychological, and 95% of it is, and the other 5% is all in your head.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? Yeah. And the other 5% is right there in your head. There.
There we go. Oh, nice. I gotta get my own soundboard for that type of stuff. Well, make a good joke with Sean or something. Yeah, come on.
Absolutely.
But speaking of having control of your destiny, the name of the show that I made today, and we'll have some more time to talk about this after a break, is Am I Being Detained? Escape from New York. And I know Andrew wanted to talk about this yesterday, but he didn't really get to it as much as he wanted to. I know is all of these states who are now making travel restrictions between other states, which is kind of a big deal. It's a big deal to say, like, New Yorkers are being detained in other states and told that they have to quarantine for 2 weeks just because they're a resident of another state. We're setting up essentially internal borders, which is not something that I think is normal or healthy for the United States to do. Even if you understand like why some governors are worried about this, but this is something that's applying to everyone who may be trying to visit families in Florida or conduct legitimate essential business in Florida, Texas, Rhode Island. Any of these states are starting to set up these checkpoints to detain New York residents and search New York residents and tell them that they have to be in quarantine or having travel bans altogether in some of these states. You've heard about this, I assume, Bob, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say that we have an associate. I don't know if you've ever met Paloma Campana. Did you ever meet her, the Second Amendment attorney? Well, she basically, she and her boyfriend decided to throw in the towel because they'd had enough of, the regime of Cuomo and the high taxes and everything else. So she pulled up stakes and moved to a little coastal community near Carteret County in North Carolina called Beaufort, not to be confused with the Beaufort, South Carolina, which more people are familiar with. But anyway, this little resort area has this totalitarian mayor by the name of Rhett Newton. And Rhett Newton has taken it upon himself to plunk down 8,000-pound Jersey barriers on the sole, ingress and egress routes, 2-lane roads in and out of this little kind of island or peninsular community down there on the ocean front. And so now, you have to go through Checkpoint Charlie to get in and out of Beaufort. That is snarling traffic. It is increasing response times for emergency services. At the same time, he's made these draconian proclamations. He calls them proclamations, interestingly. And among them are absolutely no assembly of any groups whatsoever. upon pain of arrest. Of course, all major businesses are closed. The grocery stores and convenience stores and gas stations are open, but everything else is closed. If you have any resort property there, and everybody has resort property that they rent out, to tourists, you have to kick out your tenants, throw them out, and then you have to put up these COVID, do not occupy placards on your rental properties, which of course is a signal to burglars worldwide. Hey, here's vacant, unattended property. Come help yourself. Yeah. Nicely appointed, rental properties.
Well, look, wide open. Might as well go in.
Absolutely. Nobody's going to be around. They're completely vacant. And then he has throttled back, this Rhett Newton has throttled back internet access in Beaufort, and at the same time has made it illegal for lawyers to practice their profession.
Oh my goodness. That's a recipe for tyranny. Holy cow.
How about a little of that?
Incredible.
No stinking lawyers. We don't need no stinking lawyers here. And by the way, so when you get arrested, get ready to, because you had a conversation out on the street with a neighbor, get ready to represent yourself.
Yeah, well, no lawyers. All right. Yeah, no, I definitely want to talk about more of what some governments are doing when we come back from the break. Thanks again for listening to Radio Free New York. We'll be back in a few.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
College Assistance Plus has worked with thousands of families, saving them millions of dollars. It can be stressful choosing the right college, but we're here to help. CA Plus will guide you from college visits to college graduation and through every step in between. Each student and family situation is different, and we work to accommodate those specific needs. Call today for a free family meeting, 585-582-1846, or visit collegeassistanceplus.com for more information. College is expensive. College Assistance Plus can help.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
And on Radio Free New York, our host for the most today is Libertarian Kevin Wilson.
Howdy, Bob. Yes, welcome back, everyone, to Radio Free New York. And thanks, everyone who's listening on the radio and listening online, too. We'll see if you're out there, Drew and Garrett. Thank you guys for listening, and everyone else who's listening here today. We're talking about But the name of the show is Escape from New York, and man, that story about North Carolina is wild, and I'm gonna have to look up more information about that. I'd love to hear more about what's going on there.
Yeah, there's several stories online about it. Rhett Newton is the guy. Rhett Newton. So
if any of you guys are listening online and want to help me out, send me some links. I'd love to read more about that.
By the way, we want to make sure it's Beaufort, North Carolina. Now it's a little confusing because there's a better known Beaufort, South Carolina, and I've already gotten texts saying Beaufort's in South Carolina, and I point out yes, and there's a Newark in New York too.
Yep.
So
it's like there's a Rochester in like 4 different states too, and it's sometimes it's other cities. But anyhow. So I want to talk about what's going on in Rhode Island and a few other states, and also what was suggested by President Trump on Friday, which I thought was both dangerous and unconstitutional. But we'll start with Rhode Island first because they're the first state that I saw that this happened with. So Governor Gina Raimondo initially set up National Guard checkpoints at the border of her state and had them check anyone who had a New York State license plate. And if anyone had a New York State license plate and was traveling from New York, anywhere in New York State, not just New York City or tri-state area, and they would be detained for 14 days. They'd be forced into self-quarantine for 14 days. And this type of policy, it's funny because I'd kind of joked about this a few months ago with Sean and Andrew, and I said like, hey, look, like some people are going to start calling for like some internal borders, and we joke that was something that would be silly and would never happen. But I'm kind of like, man, if there's ever like a very serious economic or like other type of crisis, like you'd start to see people advocating internal borders unironically who don't want New Yorkers or Californians or other people in their states. And, that to me is like a huge red flag for the health of the republic, for the health of the union. When states are starting to set up internal border controls, to give them credit, the reason why they're doing this is because they know that there's a lot of sick people in New York, and they're worried that people are going to carry that virus with them. But the fact of the matter is that in every state now, there's at least some community spread, and that states are going to have to take on their own policies to do that. And if you are a New Yorker, if you are traveling to other states, you should be responsible. And if you know you've been around people who may be sick, you don't know if you're symptomatic, you should quarantine anyway. You should do that. What I don't like is the National Guard sitting on the border and telling you to do that, because that is, I think, a very dangerous precedent when we start to set up these internal controls within our country. And what was happening in Rhode Island has started to happen in other places. And Rhode Island did change their policy. Governor Cuomo has spoken pretty forcefully about this issue, to I think his credit, which is rare that I give Cuomo credit for much, but he's spoken forcefully about this issue and said, hey, like you can't do that. That's not something we do in this country. And so Rhode Island changed their policy. So instead of just checking New Yorkers, they're detaining everyone. Any out-of-state resident who comes into Rhode Island is stopped at checkpoints on their border and is not allowed in.
And the probable cause for these, I guess it's too much to call them detentions, but it's just the license plate?
Yeah, basically, just the license plate. So if you have an out-of-state license plate, they're not quite detaining you, but they're telling you like, hey, you need to go into mandatory 14-day quarantine. It's enforceable with fines and penalty of jail. So there's actual consequences to breaking this. So yeah, the ACLU and other civil liberties groups are kind of understandably alarmed about this, and they're saying, no, that's not probable cause for any type of detention. That's not probable cause for taking legal action in this case. You can't take legal action against someone just because they're from another state. It's crazy because we're starting to treat people from other states like we would people from other countries. Yeah, and that's definitely a bridge too far for me. I don't see how we can start to do that legally. I mean, I don't know. I'll admit I'm not an expert on the law. I don't know this stuff all that well, and I'd love to talk to someone who knows this a bit better. But I don't see how this is acceptable in any way. I mean, Bob, do you know anything about this?
Well, no, actually, while we're talking about this, I'm leafing through my handy pocket constitution, which, by the way, anybody who listens to our flagship WYSL can get one by sending us a stamped self-addressed envelope. But I'm looking for the specific provision for, right to peacefully assemble and to, clearly this is a violation of that, especially when you layer onto the unnecessary detention and questioning of citizens who are moving about freely according to their constitutional rights, and then you impose upon them a mandatory 14-day quarantine just by virtue of the fact that they have been to a certain place. There's a lot of places in New York State where there's very low possibility of contracting coronavirus because of low population density. I'm thinking of, like Jefferson County, for example, or Clinton County.
There's still several counties that don't have any confirmed cases, and there may not be. And, I think we talked Friday about why, maybe it's Thursday, I forget. It's all run together now about why, we should take a regional approach to this because, some counties are going to be much different than others in the severity of the outbreak. But yeah, they're just carte blanche. Any resident from the state, they're taking these actions against that. Against us,
and those rural counties, like Schuyler County's got New York plates as much as anybody else. So right. New York plates are the triggering device in Rhode Island for these, for these roadside detentions. This is not the country that that we grew up in.
No. And it's not just Rhode Island, too. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is doing the same thing. He's, using National Guard and state police resources to set up checkpoints on I-95 to keep New Yorkers from entering the state. And it's happening in Texas as well, which is surprising to me. I had a trip planned to Texas in May, which, is looking increasingly unlikely anyhow. But, now if I did want to travel to Texas, I'd have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks before I could actually move out and about down there. But yeah, this isn't the America I know. This is strange, uncharted territory where we're starting to lose a lot of our civil liberties to this crisis. And I don't want that statement to take away from the fact that this is something serious. I take the disease serious, and I'll keep beating that drum over and over again. I'll keep saying that, but at the same time, holy cow, we've got to make sure that we still have a functioning republic after this. We have to make sure we still have constitutional governance after this. We have to make sure that we don't permanently lose our right to travel. We've got to set up some barriers. We've got to set up some, not barriers, but we have to pick a point where we say, no, this is too far. This is a fundamental violation of our rights and is no longer a reasonable restriction in order to get this disease under control. It is something that we need to put a stop to here and now.
Well, without minimizing unnecessarily the impact of coronavirus, which can be certainly dangerous to certain segments of the population, we're not talking about the bubonic plague here. Yeah. This is we don't. What you're seeing in Beaufort, North Carolina, is essentially tantamount to martial law, and that's completely unwarranted. I don't think that there's been a coronavirus death there in that community. I don't know what the stats are for North Carolina as a state. I know that the governor has empowered local governments with the power to do essentially what they feel that they need to do. But I'm sorry, some of these political leaders are just relishing the wielding of power, the authoritarian boot of government, if you will. They're just enjoying it a little bit too much for my taste.
Yeah, and people are scared. They're terrified of what's going to happen to them and their families, and so they're a lot more likely to just let that happen. And I'm telling you, no, we need to be vigilant every single step of the way in this process to make sure that we don't permanently lose our rights. All right, but I think we're coming up on a break now. I can hear the music. Thanks so much for joining us here on Radio Free New York. We'll be back in just a few minutes to talk a little bit more about this.
The voice of Kevin Wilson, libertarian, here on Radio Free New York. Andrew Hollister is on assignment, as we say today. We'll be back momentarily.
than twice the power.
WYSL.
More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's your latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. The rest of today, mostly cloudy skies with a slight chance of showers. Tonight into tomorrow, temperatures dipping into the upper 30s. We will be back into the 40s for the high for our Wednesday, starting off with clouds, then a few sprinkles possible in the morning. Looks like sunshine will return to the forecast later in the day. Thursday, plenty of sunshine and dry conditions. We'll be back into the lower 50s, and then clouds return to the forecast for Friday. This is Samantha LaRocca for WYSL.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Looking for something wonderful to do this summer? Consider volunteering at Camp Good Days and Special Times. You'll enjoy a fun-filled weekend on beautiful Keuka Lake, working with children and adults facing cancer and other life challenges. You'll be inspired by their courage. You'll form friendships. You'll touch lives. And your life will be forever changed. You don't need any special skills to be a Camp Good Days volunteer. If you're 18 or older and you'd like to make a difference in the lives of others, you qualify. Make this the best summer of your life. Become a Camp Good Days and Special Times volunteer. Can't spare a week this summer? Year-round volunteer opportunities with flexible scheduling are also available. For more information, call 585-624-5555 or see the complete list of volunteer opportunities and sign up online at www.campgooddays.org.
It's springtime. Get ready for warm weather and sunshine. Looking to enhance your home or yard with quality Amish-built storage, buildings, or furniture? Springwater Amish Workshop has gliders, rockers, picnic tables, lighthouses, swings, carports, and so much more. The furniture and buildings are lovely, the craftsmanship's unmatched, and the prices are the lowest in the area. Springwater Amish Workshop, Route 15, Springwater. We're closed due to the coronavirus, but we're not going away. You can contact Springwater Amish Workshop through www.springwateramishworkshop.com. Email amishworkshop@frontier.com, Facebook, or call 585-669-9710.
Mary Cariola Center is currently hiring. Direct support professionals, teacher aides, nurses, teacher and clinical positions are available. Cariola's Grow Our Own program offers the opportunity to develop and advance your career through scholarships or tuition discounts for certification and degree programs at area colleges, all while you work and continue to earn a paycheck. Simply put, we pay for you to grow with us. Apply today at marycariola.org/employment or visit Cariola Careers on Facebook.
If you suffer from headaches, if you're tired of putting your life on hold, popping pills for headaches that just keep coming back, listen closely. Did you ever think this could be related to your bite? It's called TMJ, and Doctors Pogel and Sussman at the Center for Cosmetic Dentistry can help. TMJ can cause everything from head and neck pain to ear congestion. If this sounds like you, call the Center for Cosmetic Dentistry at 22-SMILE. Put an end to the pain. See the Center for Cosmetic Dentistry in the Grease Ridge Center today.
Yes, it's Turnbull tune-up time for your air conditioning system. Whether you have an attic system, a ductless wall mount system, or even a conventional central air conditioning unit attached to your furnace, call Turnbull today to schedule your appointment to save energy and money. If you need a new system, Turnbull can provide a free estimate to meet your comfort needs and budget. Call Turnbull today, 343-2005.
You'll be comfortable with the best. Turnbull Heating and Air.
In Avon and Livingston County, call 226-6180.
The Beachcomber of Kinesis Lake offers takeout with curbside service. Friday and Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. View the menu online, beachcomberny.com. Advance orders preferred. Email or call 585-243-3640.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
Once again, we head back to the certified Corona-free studios and Libertarian Kevin Wilson.
Howdy, Bob. Yes, welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free New York, and thanks again for listening today. And we were getting some comments over the break. A nonconformist farmer said it reminds him of Hunt for Red October about traveling from state to state and not having any papers in that movie. I haven't seen that movie in a while, so I don't remember what that was. Garrett, though, had an interesting comment about having a big vacation community out in Chautauqua County, and that there's a lot of people from downstate New Jersey, and there's a lot of tension between locals and folks who came early to their vacation property. And, I went to college in an area where it's a lot of people from downstate who go and vacation in that region. So I'm curious how they're doing too. He says that, people are upset and talking about doing some crazy stuff. And, so it's not even just a state to state thing too. It's also like an internal state thing. We had talked about how there's some counties without many cases. And so for the people who are fleeing, maybe more urban areas and the New York City, New Jersey area, they're traveling upstate. They're trying to get out of the city, and I understand it. I was just on the phone with a friend yesterday who lives up in Washington Heights, down in the city, and there's still a bunch of people out and about because you still have to do your business. You still walk to the grocery store, the laundromat. Life still got to go on in some sense, but there's a lot of people sick in some of those neighborhoods, and it's hard to protect yourself in that situation. So if you have the resources, what do? You want to get out.
One of the problems that we're getting reports on, too, we have quite a following in rural Allegheny County because the signal is very strong down in that area. And we're getting calls from listeners to our flagship station complaining that people from Buffalo and Rochester are coming down and they're buying up all kinds of supplies in the rural areas. They're basically emptying the grocery stores of the staples and the paper products and everything else that are needed by local residents down there. And at the same time, they're adding insult to injury, or injury to insult, I guess, by going around with metal detectors and digging things up in search of, I don't know, some kind of loot, who knows, lost coins or what have you, and probably out of sheer boredom.
That's that one's interesting. I have not heard that before. That the people from out of town are coming up. I mean, I'm from Rochester, so maybe that's why I'm not hearing this. But yeah, that's interesting. If anyone has any more information on that, share it, because I'm not sure what to make of that one. But the grocery store thing, that kind of makes sense to me, or at least it did as of like maybe a week, 2 weeks ago. Now, I not that I'm going out shopping all that much, but I've been hearing from friends who take pictures and stuff that for the most part the shelves have been restocked pretty well because hey, you know what, capitalism works. It's not right. Socialism. The shelves don't stay empty; they get restocked right away.
Well, I saw the Scott Paper Company is actually they're doing TV ads saying, "Don't worry about hoarding toilet paper, people. We're making plenty more. There's lots more on the way. You're not going to run out. There's no need to run out to the store," which I applaud them for doing that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I know I think a few companies are stepping up production as well, just because you don't really expect there to be an increase in production in toilet paper. It's a pretty steady product. People aren't suddenly going to the bathroom more. So, why would there ever be a big jump in toilet paper sales? But they're meeting that demand appropriately. And, yeah, most of the time you go into the store, you're going to see that the shelves are stocked just fine.
Yeah, I haven't been to the grocery store recently. I got to check there for the paper products next time I'm in there. But my sense is that the panic buying is over with.
Yeah, I think it's cooled down a bit, and now that the panic buying's over with, there's going to be a lull in that stuff, and people will be able to get what you need. Again, for the most part, the supply chain for your average products, including paper products, food products, all that stuff, it's mostly fine. So it's not something that we have to worry about a ton, which is good. I think that's one less thing to worry about, and this is important. But I do want to think about, and I want to be like, I don't want to be insensitive to the needs of these communities that are seeing like an influx of residents from out of the area, and they're concerned about that. I don't want to be insensitive to that, but at the same time, it's like, to me, if you have a property out there and that's where you live a third of the year, and that is the case for some people, you should have the right to go to your own property. You have the right to be able to travel and do stuff. The responsible thing to do is, like, if you are coming from an area where there's a high risk of being sick, you should self-quarantine. I just don't like when the government's doing it, especially when you have the National Guard doing it. I think it's spooky stuff to do that.
Yeah, authoritarianism is not the kind of thing that we want to layer on top of all the other stressors that are afflicting the community these days. By the way, while we were talking about toilet paper, I just figured I'd put it to the test and quick pulled up my Amazon Prime account, and all the toilet paper there is listed still as currently unavailable. But you know what? I mean, I think on the front line, the grocery stores are going to get it first.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. They're going to get it first. And the issue, too, is, actually, I want to bring on an economist one day and talk about price gouging and why, like, maybe it does make sense to increase prices of, like, toilet paper and, like, hand sanitizer in a place like Amazon, where you could have an open market where, like, all right, like, maybe there should be a bit of competitiveness in those types of places, and let the market work, and then the people who need toilet paper are still going to be able to get it, but it disincentivizes buying a whole bunch of it at once. Where I've seen some stores will do, not in the U.S. because it's illegal, but in other countries they'll say, okay, your first thing of hand sanitizer and toilet paper is the normal price, but every one you buy after that gets a bit more expensive, which is an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah, that would work. I don't see a reason why that wouldn't work. Look, yeah. And by the way, and all this business about price controls and gouging and everything else, hands off, government. I mean, yeah. if people are going to gouge for the purchase of certain products, all that does is it sets the price, according to supply and demand in the free market economy, and it also makes hand sanitizer and toilet paper or whatever else is in short supply available for those who are willing to pay the price.
Yeah, it makes it more available. And I get the good intentions behind it, but like when you start to poke around in the economy like that, when you start to poke around and mess with prices, like you end up creating more problems than you solve.
Well, what you do is, you drive up the price for everybody is what happens. Yeah, and you also cut
or make it not available at all.
Yeah, right. Cut back on supply.
And that's how you get, an actual, like when you start to delve into that actual like socialism stuff, that's when you'll start to see like scary bare shelves. That's when that type of stuff starts to happen. And we want to avoid that as much as possible. And the best way to do that is just have the government step off a little bit. That's all we got to do.
Right. Because otherwise, the way that the economic vectors work, and of course, economics is lost on totalitarians. They don't understand that whole process. But that's how you get Venezuela.
That's right. But people are scared, and that's what they want to do, and they want someone to do something. And again, I'm telling you, all listeners out there, like, keep a calm head, be skeptical of the government. I'm not telling you. We talked about the lying thing on Friday, but be skeptical of the government, and be skeptical of their ability to be able to control the situation in the way that they think they can, because guess what? They can't control it. They can't, no matter what they promise you, they're never going to be able to fully control every aspect of the economic situation or even the health situation too. And we just need to kind of shift about and let kind of local knowledge and private knowledge and market knowledge be able to work. And so we're running out of time for this segment, but we'll be back in just a few minutes with a little more Radio Free New York.
All right, Kevin Wilson, Libertarian, in his remote studio broadcasting on behalf of Andrew and company today. We'll be back with more Radio Free New York on this quality radio station.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Human trafficking is when someone is being forced, tricked, or coerced to engage in a sex trade or forced labor. If you're a kid and forced to sell sex, drugs, or work against your will, that's trafficking. You're not a criminal, and there is help available. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 or text Be Free. Sponsored by the Livingston County Safe Harbors Human Trafficking Task Force.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
But Kevin Wilson is on hand today. He has tested positive, by the way, for Straight Talk about civil rights.
That's true. It's all true, Bob. Thanks again for joining us here in Radio Free New York, everyone. We're talking about some travel restrictions. We're talking about escape from New York, and we talked about some economic stuff too. But I do want to mention before the show closes that it isn't just the state governments that were talking about this. The federal government did talk about it too. Donald Trump tweeted the other day, and I'll get to what he actually did in a second, but he says, "I'm giving consideration to a quarantine of developing hotspots, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. A decision will be made one way or another shortly." That was on March 28th. And then later that evening, he just said that it would end up being a travel advisory. And again, to me, that this is also, again, really dangerous space to do. Governors do have some power to be able to limit travel restrictions within their states and to issue quarantines. The federal government does not have this power at all. And although there are a number of people who are supportive of this type of restriction, again, we have to be wary of where it's coming from, too. I don't like it when it comes from New York State. I don't like it when it comes from Andrew Cuomo. It is even worse when it comes from the President of the United States, who has zero ability to be able to control our internal movements. The federal government has no role in this. And that's why Governor Cuomo had a pretty strong statement on it, and it's understandable. He said this would be a federal declaration of war on the states, which is... yeah, that's a pretty big statement to make.
Yeah, well, any power that is not specifically reserved to the federal government is the province of the states. So that's the way that's supposed to be. It's called federalism, and that's how we keep control local in the hands of government employees that we have the most direct influence over.
That's right. That's right. And again, we've said it before on the show, like most of this decision making should be happening at local of a level as possible, if not the individual level. As much stuff as possible to help spread the containment virus should be happening on the individual level, the business level, maybe the local government level, rarely the state level, and definitely not the federal level, other than maybe like sharing some resources. But even that I'm skeptical of. I'd rather just the federal government mostly stay out of this.
Yeah. Well, and going
the
back,
best thing they do is get out of the way.
Going back to our example of Beaufort, North Carolina, little peninsular community we were talking about earlier in the program. That dingbat that's running that place, who's basically taking it upon himself to impose martial law for no particularly good reason. Now he's going to be answerable to his friends and neighbors, the people that he has to walk around that community and contact every day. And I've seen this actually happen in local communities right around here. Lots of times the correction is swift and decisive at the next at the ballot box, and that's the way it's supposed to work.
That's right. That's the way it should be. And it's particularly dangerous when it happens at the federal level when it only targets a handful of regions, right? If President Trump were to have acted on this, and again he didn't, other than having the CDC issue a travel advisory, but he were to act on this, it's far away, it's distant, it's happening to other people for most of the country. But for us, the people who are affected, who have our rights to be able to travel within the United States curtailed, it's a very, very serious issue. But electing the president is much less accountable than the mayor of your small town. Like the mayor of your small town, you could see him, you can tell him like, hey, you're being a jerk and a tyrant, and like this is unacceptable, and we need to stop it right now. It's a lot harder to do that with the president.
Yeah, to move this over, by the way, to discussing the merits or lack thereof of media coverage of COVID-19, this is an opportunity for you to let your feelings known about the quality of coverage that you're getting from your local TV station, radio station, or newspaper. You need to call those people up and say, if you think they're being alarmist or they're overstating the case or they're soft peddling positives, and there are positives in the coronavirus story, both locally and nationally. If it's not balanced and if it's just this, alarmist kind of, I've got to grab as many eyes and ears as I possibly can by saying the most attention-grabbing thing that I possibly can come up with, then you need to call up that news director, the program director or the general manager of that station and say, I think that you're just alarming people. I think you're just scaring people. I mean, it's important to say that if there's 267 cases of coronavirus in Monroe County, New York, that figure includes 74 cases who have fully recovered. Cases are cases, I understand, but that gives the impression that this thing is spiraling upward, which is so far, thankfully, not the case.
Yeah, and hopefully it stays that way. And again, you should take it seriously, protect yourself, protect your family. But Bob, I think you make a great point. And like we live in a unique time where the ability to engage with the creators of media is unprecedented. Like not just, us here on WYSL, but like all stations across, no matter where you're listening to, television, radio, other stations, if they're providing coverage that you think is like inaccurate or alarmist and it is just meant to drive, eyeballs and listeners rather than making you better informed to make decisions for you and your family, then yeah, you should call them out. You should engage in that discussion. I think there's good opportunities for that, and to engage with your local government too. Most of those reports, Bob, that you're talking about, they come from the county executive. They come from Adam Bello and Dr. Mendoza from the Health and Human Services. And if there's more information out there that we think we should be getting, there's an opportunity to engage with those folks and to say like, hey, this is the more accurate information that we need to be able to make decisions on how to operate our businesses, how to keep ourselves safe, and how to advocate the state government maybe to lift or I guess impose more restrictions if that's your thing, but more information I'd appreciate. Yeah,
more accurate information that is honestly presented in a way that is supposed to give everybody an accurate picture of what's really going on. And there is a negative impact from unnecessarily dire reporting on this situation, because that produces effects that are tangible within your community. For example, a local post office, I'm not going to give you the name of the town where it is. You walk in the local post office, and they have hung up plastic shower curtains across the customer.
I saw pictures of this. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, the customer counter, and so now everybody has to reach through this shower curtain to transact business with the postmaster or the postal clerks. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not particularly interested in touching that shower curtain. No. That God knows what has taken place in front of that in the last 72 hours, and it's frankly silly. It's not going to accomplish anything. And it actually exposes people to more pathogens than if the dumb plastic wasn't there. If you're just conducting your business in free space, that's a much more hygienic way to get it done.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I thought the same thing with the plastic. Like, man, I don't want to touch that thing. Just.
I mean, are they going out and cleaning it every hour on the hour?
Good question.
I'm thinking not, probably.
Spraying like peroxide or something on it to kill everything on it, but probably not. I doubt that's being done. So that's an interesting thing, because I've seen plastic barriers some of the grocery stores are putting up plastic barriers between the cashiers and the customers, but I know they're cleaning those all the time too. So. And that's, I don't have to touch that plastic barrier either. Like, that's just a physical barrier, so I can't. It's like a sneeze guard, basically. But hey, I do want to get someone commented in about the metal detector thing. So Yvonne commented in and said that the metal detectors have been related to refilling of Rushford Lake, and it's just an activity to pass time. And she said that her daughter and her family are residents of Buffalo suburb, and they decided to quarantine at the lake house to pay property taxes there to benefiting the community, that she likes having them in town, and that most people have treated them with compassion. But I guess Yvonne's had that experience where she's been one of the people that, or knows some of the people who have been out using the metal detectors related to Rushford Lake. I don't know a ton about that situation, but...
Yeah, I think it's stir craziness and cabin fever, and people are just looking for something to do. So hey, let's go.
If you go to the parks, they're packed.
Oh yeah, no question about it. And I mean, those metal detectors, folks. I mean, those things basically you're finding pop tops. So just so you know, I don't think anybody's found
anything good.
Great buried treasure anywhere. No gold doubloons.
Yeah, I usually find maybe pennies and like scraps of wire. And other sharp metal objects I wish I hadn't reached into like sand or dirt for. So yeah, I used to try to do that all the time when I was like a teenager. I just never had any luck. Maybe some other people do.
Okay, we're getting a window on the world of Kevin Wilson, ladies and gentlemen, and his metal detector.
Yeah. No, well, me as a nerdy teenager, what do? I was like, I'm going to go find some gold. I'm going to find some buried treasure with this. Guys, I didn't. Spoiler, like it didn't happen.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, well, but all right. Yeah. But thank you, Yvonne, so much for filling us in and giving us some insight on that. Because, and definitely for Talk to Town Tuesday in the next few weeks, we want to, get an insight into local communities and how they're responding to this. And both from like a resident point of view and from a government point of view, what are you guys thinking about in terms of like, are you comfortable with residents coming in? Do you think that the government should do anything about that? You've heard some of my positions on that, but I'd love to hear from you. And what are you doing to pass the time too? Rural communities and urban communities. What are you doing to pass the time? Especially if you're out of work, but even if you're not, you're not able to do your normal recreational activities. How do you maintain social distance while also making sure that you're not going stir crazy and going nuts from boredom.
Yeah, check up on your neighbors. Make sure that the elderly and family members who could use your help get it.
Yes, no, great, important message, Bob. Make sure you check up on your neighbors, check up on your community. But we're out of time for today. Thanks so much for joining us here on Radio Free New York. Really appreciate it. Andrew should be back tomorrow for Wednesday. We will talk to you then.